Spike in Homelessness. And so this is by David Knowles. He's a senior editor. So it says that it's more to do with other issues. It says not due to COVID, study finds. So spike in deaths of homeless people, not due to COVID, study finds. So out of Berkeley, California, in the state where tent cities continue to proliferate under freeway overpasses, and rows of broken down RVs provide shelter to a growing number of people, and the number of deaths among the homeless has been soaring in the recent years. So it's like a wartime death toll in places where there is no war. So Maria Raven, an emergency room doctor in San Francisco and co-author of the study on homelessness deaths during the coronavirus pandemic, told New York Times. So the study, which focused on the deaths of indigenous people living in the San Francisco area, found that it's twice as many people died while homeless in the years starting March 17, 2020, compared to any prior year. Between the date and March 16, 2021, 331 deaths among homeless people were recorded. And so you can see still photos. There's tents, rows of tents, and that's how it looks like in downtown LA. Outside of downtown LA, outside of Skid Row. Skid Row has exploded all up and down Hollywood, Vine in California, LA County. It was pretty much sprawling, but now you're seeing under freeways and around and about a lot of places there are these encampments, and you'll find different types of encampments. There'll be tent encampments such as these. There'll be also people who are just like laid out there on the street. There's encampments in front of public places, in front of right out where people are walking on the sidewalk, such as this. And this is in a lot of places you can see pretty much. So the leading cause of the death, however, was not COVID-19 alone. It says that the death was by overdose due to primarily the exposure of fentanyl and synthetic opioids. That the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency says that 8,100 times stronger than morphine. So it has gotten so far out of control that now that opioid crisis has hit the streets to where you see homeless people that are ODing. And so, I mean, it's like on the regular. So, in fact, for a year covered in the study, COVID-19 was not listed as the primary cause of the deaths among the city's homeless. And so, California is the home of the largest percentage of estimated 500,000 homeless Americans, accounting for roughly 1/4 of the total in the Times reported. So yet the number of deaths reported among the homeless is also on the rise in cities like, Skid Row has exploded, but homelessness has exploded exponentially. So it's in Indianapolis, Nashville, Salt Lake City, Austin, Texas. Still, as the Times, it's New York, LA County, all over. I mean, it's just everywhere you can find, like, there's like encampments. And two, I don't think it's just drugs. That's a result. That's like the symptoms that you find that are happening because people are a product of circumstances for whatever they're going through. And so what they're not mentioning here, what I would like to add, is that the rents are soaring. In a lot of these cities that you're hearing, the rents are getting higher. Places that used to be like under 1,000, under 2,000 are now getting into like 3K, 4K for, almost 2 bedrooms. 1 bedrooms are like almost 2,000 a month. And it's gotten out of control. There's no rent control for some of these areas. And the homeless crisis is not just people, they're strung out on drugs. Those are the symptoms. And let me add that to this, because people are just not out on the street because this is the fun thing to do. This is a result of not having a place to stay because you can no longer afford it. And so then all of the other things come underneath that with poverty, and then, violence and crime, and then maybe drugs is in the mix. And so that's why you see a lot of this happening. So that is what the article is, just really concentrated on homeless and the numbers of homelessness, but they're not telling you, some of the things are not just people getting sick or drug overdoses alone. There are other things going on, and like I can tell you for sure that in LA County the rents have risen a lot in the past year, and it's almost as if there's no empathy for people who are just the working class, and we don't know if there's any more middle class, and if there is, they're probably squeezing a buck as well. Like Dollar Tree, even though it has a bad rep, is probably where you're going to be shopping at, if you're shopping at all. And so there's inflation going on, and then with all of the things that have happened with the COVID and now the war, the gas prices soared. It just is hitting the pockets of everyone. I mean, even people who thought, oh, let me spend a little bit a year. Now you got to think about what you're going to spend before you go into the store, because you don't know if you're going to be able to afford your next meal. So, and the war is still happening. So the gas is sort of went down a little bit, but still, you never know. It's very unpredictable. So the article says that these are some of the places that they've known that have a reported high rate of homelessness, but this is really happening in a lot of places, even more than just what they're reporting here. So it says the Times noted this. So based on reporting officials in 58 of California counties that tally the death of homeless people last year, the state reported at least 4,800 such fatalities. I believe it's a lot more than that. And so you'll see things like this. You'll see the tents. You'll see RVs. You'll see people that are in hotels. You'll see people that, maybe they're in between housing. They're trying to find another affordable home because the other ones are too expensive. And so let's just get it right here. So nearly 2,000 of the last year's deaths of homeless people are recorded in Los Angeles County. So a study of deaths of homeless people living in Alameda County, which includes Berkeley, and this is from 2018 through 2020. And so it found that 57% of the fatalities took place outside of the medical setting, and instead occurring on the streets and sidewalks, outdoors, in vehicles, encampment shelters, other residences, and other locations. So as with the study conducted in San Francisco, and from what I heard about San Francisco, the living is so expensive out there that I believe it actually catapulted homelessness. And I've known some people who said that they moved out there and they moved right back to LA. They thought LA was expensive. San Francisco is ridiculous when it comes to finding affordability. It's just not there anymore. And from what I'm hearing too, you have to, like, everywhere you walk, you have to watch where you're walking, because you could literally step on feces, because it's homeless people that are on the sidewalk and they're using the bathroom right out there in broad daylight, right in front of people. And so that's how bad the homelessness is in San Francisco, in certain places. And so it's crazy. So it says that is the leading cause of death out there in the county was from drug overdoses, with 25% of homeless deaths between 2018 and 2020, 190 directly due to overdose. The number of overdoses among people experiencing homelessness rising sharply in 2020. So with sky high housing costs. So basically, I said this before we even got to this paragraph, especially in the urban centers like San Francisco Bay Area and Los Angeles, of course, Californians are often stretched to make rent and pay a mortgage. And there are people who are in houses that are like house poor, if you would know what that meant. They're basically, just living mortgage, month to month mortgage, to try to make it so you don't go through a foreclosure episode. So It is really bad. And so a March poll conducted by the Public Policy Institute of California found that nearly 55% of the state's residents said that they were concerned about not having enough money to cover their housing costs. So, according to the data compiled by Zillow, Californians' median home price rose by more than 20%. This was in 2021, and 793,100 in the coming year. It is expected to rise 5.2%. And so that is to about like 834,400. And so like buying a home is like out of the question for like new home buyers. It's just like so far, far, far away. If not, it's not even there. And so as of September 2021, the average rent for the 2-bedroom apartment in California was 1,996. That's according to the statistics. Okay? Or Statista is what they say. So basically that's the article right there. And so it is not good for a lot of people. And so basically was saying at the very end what's going on. So this homelessness is not because people just want, oh wow, you didn't work hard enough, or oh, too many drugs, you're taking too many drugs, that's what got you homeless. No, those are the symptoms you're hearing about of as a result of being homeless for a long period of time. And this is what happens to people. And then they start drinking, they start resorting to crime, they start resorting to like drug abuse, and then that's what you see, and they start giving up, their family is like separated, everybody's torn apart, and it's just not working out. Rent's too high, nowhere to live, you're out on the street, or you're suffering, with whatever illness, and medical bills are too high. So there's all kind of stuff going on. So there's like a plethora of issues going on having to do with what has contributed to a lot of people's situation due to homelessness. And so there's different levels of homelessness. You got people in RVs, people in tents, people doubling up in apartments. You might have 2 or 3 generations living in a 2-bedroom, trying to make it work. You take that corner, I'll take that corner. You might have people in RVs, people in hotels. Maybe they're staying for a little bit of time and then they go back to their RV. It's in between. So there's a lot of things going on. So it's gotten really bad. And this is not just in LA. This is not just in 1 or 2 cities. This is like, it's spreading everywhere. And so that's the way this is looking. And I haven't done one of these in a while, but I figured it's time to do it since, there's all this chaos going on. I know there's a lot of things that have happened since I've done a video. I know this has nothing to do with the homelessness, but I heard about what happened with the Oscars with Will Smith and Chris Rock, that chaos, and then all of the comments that came in about that, and then this thing between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, that's constantly on the news. And now you have all these issues with them fighting in court, as in people trying to decide whether the CDC, should we take the mask off? Should we put the mask back on? Now I'm hearing we should put the mask back on because the cases are rising in New York, and now they're rising all over again, like everywhere. Like we're now seeing it, here in LA County, and it's as the masks come off, the masks go back on, and so it just doesn't stop. It's like an endless bucket of drama. But anyway, so getting back to this spike in deaths of homelessness, it's not a surprise. Unfortunately, it's not a surprise. But we shall see how this it progresses. I don't see it getting any better, especially if the rents are as high as they are. If you still have landlords who refuse to look at people as families rather than dollar signs, and trying to build back money because maybe of the lockdowns, or this is like get back time because of the moratorium, who knows, or maybe the war. is a result of some of this stuff, because it's affected everybody in some kind of way. If it isn't gas, it's somewhere. Um, so I think everybody's kind of going through something of some level, some more than others. And so now you also see, other climate issues going on, where there's flooding, maybe other issues where, you have people worried about um, not being able to live in their place for very long because the sea level rise that's going on. So it just seems like it's just not really at a point in time where this thing is gonna like really let up. It's a like I said, a gradual process from back when I was doing the videos before, that these things are going to progress. I feel like a lot of this homelessness, a lot of it that is increasing has to do with the rents. It has to do with not having affordability and places to stay. And it's unfair to people who have families, people who are working and they don't make six figures. It's like what I've been saying before, and it's actually coming to fruition that you're going to see a lot more people trying to find other ways, other avenues to get around having to pay all this rent. And even if it means they have to go into this nomad life where they're living like in between like RV, or they're going from hotel to hotel, or they're going from maybe, living, co-living, and, or maybe getting a place, and people are like partitioning off areas and then renting out, subletting. There's all kind of things people are trying to resort to doing just so they can have some type of shelter. And so it's bad when people are trying to be creative about where they're going to sleep at night. So, having said this, we'll see how this happens. But I blame a lot of this on unaffordability. The war is also resulting in people not having a lot of money for gas and food. Well, the gas is kind of going down, but it TikToks. It's kind of teetering back and forth. And then all this chaos, and then the uncertainty, and then the climate issue stuff. And so that stuff is not going to go away anytime soon. It doesn't look like. Some of this stuff is like, it's creeping upon us. And so we shall see what happens as a result of this. So until next time.